What is up, guys? It is V for Valentino coming at you guys once again with another bounce back exclusive. All right, now this particular video is going to be on high probability institutional candles. Okay, now a lot of times I get questions, people asking me, how do you know which institutional candle to use? Well, my answer to that question is, in the market, we don't ever really know anything, but based upon data that we can find and collect, we can anticipate, things, We can anticipate moves, or we can anticipate what institutional candle to use that is going to be a higher probability than others. Okay, now, I do not take every institutional candle, For me, it must meet one of these four requirements. Now, this is based upon my own back testing and what I've found, and I advise you guys as well to back test this after the video, Because the market is going to be one of your greatest teachers, So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first one that is acceptable is one that we should already know and love, If you've been through the earlier parts of the course, you should be familiar with this one, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But the first one is, of course, the candle, that captures liquidity in the form of an old high or low and then goes the other way. So this is our last bearish candle here, Go ahead and highlight that. That is our last bearish candle that captures this low and then goes the other way, and we come back to it while we're in a bullish market structure on this particular time frame. Okay, now a lot of times one thing that you can notice with this one, whenever it does this, is price will come back to that old low that was actually captured, as we can see here in this particular example, So that could be our little area point of interest. Okay, now I'll find just a few more examples. Like I said, we'll not spend too much time on this one because this should be one that we are familiar with if you have gone through the earlier parts of the course. Okay, so we'll find just maybe a couple more examples. Okay, so here's a beautiful example as well. We can see here we have this last bullish candle that reaches for this liquidity over here to the left, last bullish candle, and we do see price come back right into that last bullish candle that captures liquidity and goes the other way, so final example here. Let's see what we can if we can find it. One pretty close. This is one there, so we'll go ahead and just use that one. We have this bullish candle, This candle actually, after this, the wick, I look at it as the momentum from, them pushing price up. It actually came in through this candle, but we have that last bullish candle here. I'll find one more last cleaner example for you guys, just so we get the point. Okay, so here's another example as well. We have this last bullish candle that captures the high to the left before price goes the other way. And then we do indeed see price return back, to this last bullish candle that captured liquidity, and then went the other way. So that is the very first one that is acceptable. Okay, now the next one that is acceptable for me is any candle, any institutional candle that is sitting inside of an imbalance. Now, this one is actually personally one of my favorites. Anytime the institutional candle is sitting inside of an imbalance, okay, or if the imbalance ends at the candle, right, the institutional candle itself, I count those two as the same. I count it as it's sitting inside of an imbalance. And so I will show you guys a few examples of this. We have a very clean one here, right? We see this last down candle. If we were to mark it, the wick there, we can see that that is sitting inside of an imbalance. Right? If you're not familiar with what imbalance is, this is not a lesson on that. Please refer to other parts of the course, right? But we have an imbalance from here to here, and this candle here is sitting inside of it, right? So prime example of that, right? We actually have another example here. We have this last bearish candle. If we were to mark it, we can see that this candle is sitting inside of this imbalance, right? Notice how the imbalance here ends right at where the institutional candle starts. Okay, to me that counts as the candle sitting inside of an imbalance. Right, notice how we come right to this candle very clean, right? And then we see price go the other way while being in a bullish market structure. Okay. All right, I do believe I saw another one over here to the right. Let's see if we can find another example of this one here. Right, like I said, personally, this is like my favorite one to use. When I see this, is go for me, right? Of course, in alignment with structure and everything like that. So here we go with this one here. We can see here that this candle, right, if we were to mark this last bearish candle before this push up, right, we can see that the imbalance, right, ends right where the candle starts. I count this as the candle sitting inside of an imbalance, right? We can go ahead and change time frames here. That was a 15-minute time frame, just so you guys can see that this is very, very fractal. Does not matter the time frame, right? Very, very beautiful here, right? After we saw a nice clean market structure break and shift, right? We had this nice move away, last bearish candle, right? If we go ahead and mark that, we can see that the imbalance ends right at the institutional candle here. Right, one of my favorites to play. I actually want to see this on a 15-minute time frame. See if it had a smaller candle in there, because I do believe it did. Yeah, it did, but it just dipped into the imbalance there. Right. Now, I'm going to go through all of them, and then, and then we'll talk about them having multiple. Now, let's see if we can find just one more example before moving on to the next one. And we'll go ahead and check out that 15-minute on this one here. Because it did look like that we potentially have that. Right. Here's another example. We're in a bullish, two examples actually, we're in a bullish market structure, right? I do believe that was actually called on bounce back live, right? So here, right, if we go ahead and mark this last down candle for this push up, right, we can see that the imbalance ends there right at the start of this institutional candle, right? For price goes the other way. Couple examples in here. So because we have so many, I'll just show them. Right, if we mark this candle as well, we can see this last down candle before this push up, right? Imbalance ends right at the institutional candle. All right, last example here, right? Bullish market structure. We can see, right, this last bearish candle here, right, is sitting right inside of an imbalance. I do count all of these as the candle sitting inside of the balance, right? So that's all the same to me. And we can see the imbalances from here to here, and then we have the candle sitting right inside of the imbalance, right? Very, very high probability. My favorite setup to play. Okay, so that is the next one that, you know, meets said requirements. And when you back test this, you'll see it over and over and over and over, and how many times it actually plays out whenever you see the institutional is sitting inside of an imbalance, right? Over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, now moving on to the next one, right? So the first one is the candle that captures liquidity. The second one is the candle that is sitting inside of the imbalance, right? The third one, right, is going to be a candle that has imbalance inside of it, right? It's different than the candle itself being in the imbalance. The third one is whenever there's an imbalance inside of the candle. Okay, so we're going to run through here and we're going to look for some examples. Right here we can see, right, after having a nice clean market structure break, we have this last bullish candle before this move down, right? Notice how we have this imbalance that is inside of the candle. Whenever that occurs, I do typically like to see price at least touch the start of the imbalance, but it does not absolutely have to. But that is what I ideally like to see. Okay, so we have an example there. I'm going to run through this here, see if we just find some more examples. Gold is personally one that I trade a lot, so you know, you can find tons and tons of examples. That was clean. Sheesh. All right, that's an example of the previous one that we were just looking at. I may switch over here to another pair. All right. Or we can just switch time frames here, actually. See what it is, if we can find anything. Checking out Euro USD. Right, here's an example here. We can see this last bullish candle before this push down, right? Or even both of these consecutive candles. This one's kind of doing both. It's inside of the imbalance as well. So I won't use that one in particularly. All right, let me see. Euro. You get a lot of the candles inside of the imbalance. All right. I do believe this one had an example, because I do remember this being a 15-minute break of structure. Yeah, so here we have an example of that, right? So we have, after getting this clean 15-minute break of structure, right? We have this last bullish candle here, right? Notice how inside of that candle, we have the imbalance, right? And so that's an example of what it is that I mean, right? And so we're going to see if we can find one more. I'm not going to search too hard, right? If we don't come across one here on this 15-minute time frame, I'm just going to move on to the last one that is actually a little special to me, that I really like this one as well. But we'll see if we can find one more example of this particular one, right? Of the imbalance being inside of the candle. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Right, I don't see any in particularly on Euro USD. You get a whole lot of the candle being inside of the imbalance. Like, that is literally my all-time favorite one to play. You got these two consecutives that are sitting inside of this imbalance here. But was looking for one more example of the imbalance sitting inside of the candle, right? So, actually, gold has one right here. This is actually a setup that I was looking at. So in this bullish market structure here, we have this last bearish candle before this push up, right? We have the imbalance sitting inside of the candle. Look at Goldilocks giving me that last example there, right? Super clean. That's a nice move there at current market price, right? So the final one, like I said, is one that is actually a little different. And I just did some back testing, and I just found this, and it was just interesting. Okay, it was really interesting. I'm gonna scroll pretty far back on gold just to see, if I can, get some examples a little further back. Okay. Right, so the last one, what it is a candle that fills imbalance. Okay. A candle that fills imbalance. One thing that we need to understand is that imbalance is also a form of liquidity. Okay. Whenever we have a slippage right here, like how we have this imbalance here, where there were majority buyers in this, right, where sellers never got a chance to be sellers, what's left inside of here is what's known as sell side liquidity. Okay, I'm not going to do a whole lesson on that, but just know and understand that imbalance is also a form of liquidity. And so we have this candle fill this imbalance, and then we see price go the other way. Right? That is an acceptable institutional candle to use. Notice how this one's also sitting inside of an imbalance as well. Super, super clean. All right, we're going to go on this 4 hour here. All right, see if we get some more examples going. Okay. All right. Here's an example. I remember actually playing this way, way back, taking the buy from here, right? But here we have this last bearish candle before this push up. Notice how that candle is the one that fills this imbalance here to the left, right? Completely fills it, right? And so this becomes a high probability institutional candle. Okay. Again, notice how this last bullish candle is the candle that fills this imbalance, right? Fills it. And at the same time captures this high, right? We see price return right to that. Okay. And I'm going to find one more example, and then we're going to get into it being multiple, right? Multiple of these. Okay. I do have an example there. I want one that looks very clear for you guys to see. And this is diving into way, way back territory, but we'll see if we can come across one here. Okay. That was a pretty nice one there for a retracement move. Cool. All right, this is my last example that I will use. Okay. It's probably cleaner on the 1 hour, but I do not believe the 1 hour will let me go that far back. Notice how we have this last bearish candle that fills this imbalance. Okay, fills that imbalance there, right? And then we come right back to this candle. It's high probability institutional candle. Okay, so these were the four. The first one is the one that we know, where the candle that captures liquidity, right? The second one is my personal favorite, right? The candle that is inside of an imbalance, right? Or the imbalance ends at where the institutional candle starts, right? The third one is a candle that has an imbalance inside of it. And then the fourth one is a candle that fills imbalance. Okay. So if we have at least one of these, it does qualify as a candle that I personally would take. Now, we're going to briefly touch into us having multiple. Okay. If we have one of these, it is a high probability institutional candle, right? If we have at least two of these, it is a higher probability institutional candle, right? And if we have three or more, right, or all four of them, highest probability institutional candle, in my personal opinion. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show some examples of this, right? Notice how the move that we got away from this, very significant, right? 300 pip move, right? Not too significant in today's conditions with everything going on, but back then, like, that was a decent move, right? Nowadays, it's like gold will spit that easy. But what we had here is this candle, it captured liquidity in the form of this high, right? It also filled this imbalance, right? The candle is sitting inside of an imbalance, right? We have three or more. We actually had all four here. Notice how this candle's sitting inside of an imbalance. And then at the same time, we zoom in and we look closer, we see that we have this imbalance inside of it. So this one had all four. Highest probability institutional candle whenever we have three or more. Right? Again, guys, do not take my word for it. Go ahead and back test this stuff. Okay? Super, super powerful. Okay? I personally like seeing at least two, but I will take it if it has just one. Right? Notice how this candle captures this liquidity in the form of this low, right? It fills this imbalance here. And at the same time, right, inside of this candle, there's an imbalance inside of it, right? So that has three or more. Highest probability institutional candle. The move that we got from this was massive, right? Massive. And I was honored to be able to take part in that, right? Again, we run through it. This candle here. Notice how this candle, right? We capture this low. All right, captures liquidity. It fills this imbalance. And on top of that, it's also sitting inside of an imbalance. All right, if we look at that there. Another example of a highest probability institutional candle, we got three or more there. All right, again, the move away from that was massive. Okay. And so when you see this, right, back test this, guys, you'll see it over and over and over and over, right? Go on this daily here. All right, notice how this last bullish candle captures this liquidity in the form of this high, right? And it's sitting inside of an imbalance, right? The imbalance ends where the institutional candle starts, right? We have 2 there, so that's a higher probability institutional candle, right? So just 1 is high probability, 2 is higher probability, right? And then 3 or more is going to be highest probability institutional candle. Okay, so I hope you guys got major value out of this session, right? It's your boy, V for Valentino. You should be trading. And if you're trading, then you should be a chairman sniper. Sheesh.